Welcome back to Up North at 4. We are very lucky to be joined by Jim Bokern today of the Manitowish Waters Historical Society. Jim is a fountain of knowledge about this Northwoods, so we're lucky to have you. And we have some exciting news, and we're going to kind of teach you guys that exciting news through a slideshow. So let's go to the first slide, Jim. So what is the news?
The news is that we have a special brew that has been made by Kirby Nelson and his team at Lake Louie Brewing Company and Wisconsin Brewing Company, commemorating a civilian conservation corps camp, Camp 660, and it's going to be a Pilsner beer. As you look up there and view the tap handle, you would see the surveying information and equipment being replaced by a pint. As we move forward, we take a look at the beer itself. It is a Schlitz recipe, pre-prohibition Pilsner.
Wow.
And it is really made to match what the men would have been drinking at the specific camps. And Kirby is doing a lot of work, and those beers are kegged, and they're going to be made available to vendors here in the Northwoods if they want to purchase some. But again, it's a real small batch.
So let's move to this Camp CCC. Here's a picture of the entrance. Tell us about the CCC camp.
The CCC camp, this is Camp Mercer, is one of over 100 that were throughout all of Wisconsin. And you see the old entrance on the left and the new entrance we rebuilt last year on the right. From 33 to 42, men would come there and do a lot of work to restore the environment. They would go out in the field and fight fires, plant trees, and much of the identity and the look of the Northwoods is due to these guys who ultimately ended up fighting in World War II as the greatest generation. And as you walk down the interpretive trail, we have 22 interpretive signs, and those signs are filled with a lot of information, getting people to specific destinations, and some of the destinations deal with beer. We have found 4 historic threads there, and that's how this came about. Jason Rodesovich and Kirby went out on a hike with me, and Kirby says, we need to brew a beer. We need to get this out there, and I know just the recipe. And that's what we came up with.
Wow, okay.
So if you...
So those are the trail, yeah, and then we also have a beer car.
Yeah.
That's 1934.
Yeah, it's amazing because we actually found a Schlitz beer car in 1934 at Camp Mercer. Drinking age was 18. These guys are 18 or older. And so beer was part of the offerings at Camp Mercer. We also found a picture in 1934 of them having beer parties in their barracks. So they're imbibing. They were only paid $1 a day, $30 a month. 25 went home to their family, but they got to keep 5. And a lot of that money went into the
and
beer
some
purchases.
Evidence in a book written by a member there, right?
Right. Well, one of the commanders, Commander Robert Ermintrout, actually spoke of Bill Summers using beer as an incentive for his men if they finished the job early and in a high degree. He wrote an academic book called Forgotten Men and called out Bill Summers and these beer parties that took place right on the Camp Mercer campus.
I think we should take a break. Let's talk about more of those beer parties right after that. We're going to be with Jim Bokern again from the Manitowish Waters Historical Society. We'll see you right back here. Welcome back to Up North at 4. We're still joined by Jim Bokern of the Manitowish Waters Historical Society. We're talking about a beer kind of coming back to life after being gone for nearly a century. So, Jim, let's talk about the parties that would happen, and we're going to get into John Dillinger's soon, but first, the parties.
Sure, that thread of beer being part of the history there. The beer party was often conducted just down from the dynamite shack that you showed before break. And there's a beautiful campsite that you can see on the right. And that campsite is exactly where those parties were held. And we have a commemorative sign that talks about all the details of that. So that's our second bit of evidence. Another piece of our third bit of evidence, another piece of evidence that we have is that the entire Dillinger shootout and fiasco at Little Bohemia was started by Camp Mercer CCC, and they were on a beer run. That's right. They left the camp to go get beer
At Little Bohemia?
at Little Bohemia in April of 1934, and they were drinking with John Dillinger. And two of the men there were named John. John Morris, John Hoffman.
Okay.
And then Eugene Bauzineau, he sadly is killed because when they come out of Little Bohemia, they get in their car, and as they drive away, the FBI closes the dragnet around. These men don't yield. They get fired upon. There's the car. You can see the bullets, and they're wounded. One man is dead, and that alerts the gang. The FBI made a huge error, and that created the fiasco. So beer got the CCC boys over there having a little fun, and on the way out, they were shot, not Dillinger.
So beer led to Dillinger escaping briefly.
Exactly.
Wow. So is the beer, I thought they would be brewing it in Mercer. Why are they going down to Manitowish Waters to get it?
Oh, they're not brewing the beer. The beer is being brewed by Kirby Nelson. They're just buying beer.
I see, okay.
Yeah, they're seeking, beer and relaxing after working, fighting fires and planting trees. Having a beer is pretty appealing. So they're just on a regular beer run like, kids in college or something like that.
And we have a picture of the ambulance that transported people as well.
Okay.
We can take
the ambulance, this is the actual ambulance that transported the folks from the shootout to Camp Mercer for treatment, the ones that survived. And if we go to the next slide, we want to basically celebrate this great historic tradition of the CCC and the rich history that surrounds beer at this camp. So Jason Radosevich and Kirby and I hiked the trail, and Jason's grandfather actually was at Camp Mercer. And they all put this together, and we think it's a great thing to share, and we want to make it available to any restaurants or taverns, and they can pick it up at that point. Steel Tank Brewing is where Jason Radosevich does his brewing, and he's going to make another 660 beer down there. So if you're in Oconomowoc, enjoy that. But Ian Slatter, he has the few 1/6 barrels and half barrels that are available. And I think a lot of people in the Northwoods would like to refresh themselves this summer and think about the CCC and how we have all this environmental reclamation and really owe it to these men who were part of the greatest generation.
Always a pleasure to have you, Jim. Thanks for coming down.
Great information, and go check it out. Thank you for coming.
No, my pleasure.
We'll be right back after the break.